Well, we've gotten some really nice rain the last couple days, and the garden is really appreciating it. I seem to have some type of squash vine. It looks like a winter squash, and it might be a maxima vine because it has smooth leaves. So we'll have to see, but there seems to be a round fruit forming. This must have gotten pollinated down here. So we'll have to see. It is orange, and there's another little fruit forming there, but I don't think the flower has opened yet. So we'll have to see, but it is loaded with lots of flowers, and little pollinators are in there. So hopefully we'll be getting something out of this, and it'll have to be a surprise. But aren't these vines gorgeous? I think they're just magical. Look how beautiful that is. So I am thrilled with that. The rain and the heat have kick-started my zinnia garden, and it looks like we've got some beautiful colors in here. It's sort of a mix of seed. I just kind of threw everything and anything out here as far as the zinnias, and the bees are loving the blooms. Some of the zinnias seem to be a shorter variety, and then I have a couple of tall ones in the back. I'm sort of wishing I had planted more of the giant kind, and I do have some in the greenhouse that I'm growing on that hopefully I can tuck in. And we also have a surprise squash plant here, and I'm not sure what type of squash plant that might be, but it's got lots of lovely male blooms on them. And it looks like my pear tomatoes have finally put out some fruit. I hope you can see that in there, but they're a pear-shaped tomato, and they will turn yellow when they're ripe. But I'm excited about those. They're very pretty, very gourmet. I like to grow tomatoes that you don't ordinarily find in the supermarket. I just love how these zinnias look. This is a great spot for them because they get plenty of sun. I don't normally have much luck growing cucumbers, but the two that I put in the ground here look like they're taking off. We'll see how they do. I have them inside some tomato cages so they can trellis up, but nothing seems to have bothered them this year, so we'll see. Fingers crossed. Here's a pretty little view. The pink of my hydrangea really goes well with my pink garden accents. And we have a lovely hosta with lavender bell-shaped flowers. I love it. It's got beautiful variegated leaves. This is one that my friend Lori gave me years ago, the hosta. Here's another view of the pink garden. And I'm wondering if I'll get any blooms from this lace cap hydrangea. I did transplant it up here. It was in a full sun location and it was not blooming. So I'm wondering if in the shadier spot, and it's a quite thick shade, if maybe it will decide to put out blooms. We'll have to see. It's looking quite healthy though. I've had this lavender plant for a couple of years, and I grew it from seed. My son Charlie gave me a pack of lavender seeds. Well, several packs of flowers, but one of them was lavender seeds, and I grew these, and I get blooms from them every year. A package of seeds is a great gift. It keeps giving, especially if they're perennial seeds. And the vegetable garden next to the polytunnel continues to be a jungle of foliage here. So far, everything has been doing really well. And I think the addition of flowers in there has really brought in a lot of pollinators. Everything's looking quite lush. And I have a large cushaw squash developing up there. You can see it right there. It's a green striped cushaw. And this vine is very long. It's been climbing this trellis and attaching itself with tendrils, and every now and then I come in and help it along to attach itself. This is just an iris leaf. It's nice and soft, and I sort of pulled back the vine towards the trellis, and then the tendrils latched on. It was growing outward, so I wanted it to be able to cling to the trellis and stay towards the back of the vegetable bed. And I particularly love this combination over here of my banana peppers. I know I've shown them before, but I'm waiting on them to turn yellow. But look how pretty they are with peppers growing amongst these beautiful pink geraniums. I really love that combination. I'm going to have to remember to plant more geraniums in with my veggies. It just looks so pretty. And it looks like these are making some seeds. These are little seed heads on a geranium. So it would be nice if I could grow some more of this pink from seeds. Looks like we'll be having a zucchini for dinner later in the week. Oh boy, they're so delicious from the garden. By the way, these pots are full of sedum that I went ahead and Chelsea chopped about 2 weeks ago. And it looks like they're all putting out some new shoots right here. So it looks like they've rooted in nicely. My Mother of Thyme doesn't really look like Mother of Thyme. I thought it was supposed to be covered with red flowers, but it is looking glorious, and it does attract a lot of pollinators. So it must be quite delicious. But this was supposed to be an ornamental thyme, and I'm not sure what I was sold, but it certainly is vigorous. I have elephant ears all throughout the property in pots. For me, they do so much better in pots. They can also be grown quite huge in the ground, but they are doing really well now that it's hot and they've gotten lots of rain. I love how the raindrops just sit like little jewels on top of the leaves. It's just so pretty the way an elephant ear holds water. And this is fish mint. It's known to do well in boggy areas. I'm not sure if it's an actual plant or a weed, but it does create a nice ground cover. The reason it's called a fish mint is if you get close to it or you pick it, you will find that it smells like a fish. So this is not a good one to keep near anywhere that you want to sit and enjoy the garden, but it sure is pretty, and it's a pretty backdrop for my guacamole hostas. Got these a couple years ago at Lowe's, and they truly do look like a shade of green in a bowl of guacamole. I think these are beautiful, and when they get bigger I will definitely divide them, spread them out, because they're just gorgeous. But the fish mint makes a nice backdrop for that. And you know, when you let something like this grow, even though it seems to be quite invasive, it certainly beats weeds. And they do have heart-shaped leaves here, and interesting flowers, which are actually just starting to fade. All of the variegated hostas back here in my shade garden, also given to me by my friend Lori years ago, are putting up their beautiful lavender blooms. They're all reaching towards the sun, and it just looks so pretty back here. And the azalea, which I transplanted into this area, seems to be happy here. I think it's taken well. It was in a pot for several years. Also given to me by my friend Lori. It's a white azalea, but I think it's really going to appreciate being in the ground this year. And the ferns, of course, love to get rain. They look really pretty. Pretty and green. I realize I'm showing you a raised bed mostly of dirt, but I have planted on the edges here, on the front edges, here and here, some butternut squash seeds. So we'll see if they come up. It is rather late. I planted them on June 29th, and it's rather late to do that, but you know, I think they're a 90-day crop, so it should be mature by October. We'll see. We'll see if it was too late, but I just decided to keep planting and see what happens. The seeds are actually from last year, and you know, you may as well plant your old seeds and see what happens. And then back here, the Joe Pye weed have grown very tall. These were gifted to me by my friend Lori again. Look how beautiful they look. And they do just fine back here in the part shade. But they are budding up. They'll make beautiful big purple blooms that will attract the monarchs. But they have done so well with actually zero care. And they're a nice, tall, dramatic plant. So I'll be sure to show you this when it blooms. Seems like the two blushing bride hydrangeas that get the most sun are the ones that are blooming. But they do look very healthy and lush this year, so I'm hoping to get a nice hedge. The rustic garden bed is doing well, but I've had to add in a lot of things. I did separate out my Sweet William into little plantlets, and I noticed that a lot of the seeds that fell from the flowers are coming up. I hope you can see those little sprouts. So I'll definitely have flowers next year and the following year. Since they're a biennial, you always want to make sure that some seeds are growing and the flower readily drops those seeds. And my Verbena bonariensis is still doing well. I absolutely love this plant. I'll definitely be propagating some more of that to spread out throughout the rustic garden. And I do seem to have a snapdragon here. I think that's what it is. It's doing fine. It just came up on its own this year. I don't think they're perennials, but it must have dropped from a seed from last year. And all of the zinnia seedlings are getting taller. And I did put in some things which I hope are rabbit proof. I have lost some things in here from my herd of bunnies, which I actually haven't seen in a couple days, so I'm a little worried. But they do like to munch on certain things. But I read that they don't like zucchinis or squashes. They have furry stems. So I put my zucchini in. These were the second round of zucchini I started. As you can see, they're very chlorotic. And they were dying to be planted. And I do have a bigger batch over here. These do look better. And they're starting to green up. They've only been in the ground a week, but I'm hoping that they'll take off now that they've been planted. But I was holding them back because sometimes when you get squash vine borers, which I have not gotten yet, it's nice to have extras. So I was growing these to plant later, and hopefully I will be able to grow these on. And my other zucchini are still doing well, but I popped those in thinking they could fill some space here in the rustic garden bed and hopefully be rabbit proof. Then I transplanted in some of my coleus from last year. That's a bright green one. I'm not sure what that was called. It was like a neon green, just gorgeous. And then I found some pineapple coleus at Whole Foods, and I cut the top off of these. I have the main plant in a container on my deck, but I cut the tops off and just popped them down into some nice soil that I added. And hopefully they'll root. I put those in yesterday. And I did the same thing over here with some dark star coleus. So let me take you on that side. I have a few pockets of chrysanthemums spotted throughout the rustic garden bed. They're also a good choice. They have a smell that the rabbits don't like, so they don't seem to bother chrysanthemums. Here are some cuttings from my Dark Star Coleus, the one that's up with the petunias in a planter. But I went ahead and took cuttings and put them in here. And they're almost so dark you can't see them with the soil, but those should be really stunning if those take. And like I said, hopefully they're rabbit proof. Of course, chives are rabbit proof. They don't like anything in the allium family. But hopefully with the addition of the pineapple coleus and my chartreuse green one from last year, and this year I'll have some nice foliage interest, and sometimes it can be more colorful than flowers and long-lasting. Coleus are wonderful that way because you have that constant color. You're not even waiting for blooms. So we'll see if the rabbits leave those alone. I certainly hope so. I have high hopes for them. And I do have some artichoke plants in here, but for some reason some of them have been eaten and some of them haven't. So I'm not sure what's eating those. Could also be the bunnies. And then down here I do have some coleus. Here's more of the dianthus, which I spread out. Hopefully I'll have an even larger stands of my Sweet William next year since I spread it out a bit. And then I have these which sprouted up as seedlings in a pot, and I just put them down into this soil, and they seem to be growing larger in here. So I have 4 bits of coleus in here, and I may add more. Because like I said, it's a really great way to add color without relying on blooms, which you usually have to wait for. And a lot of things don't bloom constantly. But let me show you this right here. This is a black-eyed Susan plant, and it's supposed to be rabbit-proof, but obviously something has come along and eaten it to the ground. So I don't think this is going to be a good rabbit-proof plant. But that's about it, guys. My Agastaki is doing well on both sides, doing better on the sunny side. But I'm trying to fill the rustic garden bed in with things that won't get eaten up. It's really important to think about the conditions and the creatures in your garden and plant things that they won't like so you can enjoy both the creatures and the garden. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope you're having fun in your garden.